Some old Eagles records?
I got all kinds of.
Oh, you do?
Junk. Oh yeah.
8-track.
Collector of junk and old things.
How much, so I just had one more question about the mishap in Oklahoma. How much, oh, by the way, for the record, this is still 16th of August, 2008. This is Rob Campbell talking with Jon Leigh. This is tape 2 of 2. We just have a few more questions to do. But how much time was lost, do you remember, from what happened in Oklahoma?
Well, the season was gone.
Was that late in the season?
No, it's
Or-
beginning, just at the first.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was, I think that was the year supposed to go to Switzerland. They were supposed to go to Switzerland after that little short season in Norman.
Oh, so that season was supposed to be a little bit of time in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
And then get over to, what year was this, do you remember?
No.
Okay, and then go over to Switzerland, so it was that's an unusual season, right? To be
Yeah.
in 2 different places
Yeah.
in 1 year, did that ever happen? Did you go to 2
No,
places?
I can't think of
Yeah.
any. There may have been, but I can't remember them.
By the way, you would fly the plane down to Norman, Oklahoma?
Yeah.
How far could you fly this plane in one flight without refueling? About?
He had to stop to get gas in Nebraska, I think, to get to Oklahoma. Yeah,
So
you got about 2.5 hours of fuel.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
So why did this lose so much of the season?
To get it repaired.
It just takes that long?
Well, I was the only one that was working on it. I had to go to Davis Mothin, and they were kind enough to let us have parts out of there.
Davis Mothin is
The salvage place in Tucson.
Oh, I see.
For all the military, they've got storage there, and as things get
this is the
so
big-
far out of date.
This is a big plane graveyard?
Yeah.
And they pull things off of planes and they have inventories and such, I see.
Yeah,
And they were nice enough, I'm sorry, you were saying
to get the landing gear and cowling and pieces that I need, and there was propeller laying on the ground. Those were the hard things to find, but it was a C model. It was a shorter blade for the carrier. And I asked if I could take that, and they said, well, yeah, it was the only one there, and they didn't see any need to keep it there, and if I wanted to get the numbers off it and they could delete it from their files, we could have that, so.
because the propeller was broken?
Yeah, it had bent that one so severely that was on there, and it had done damage inside the propeller hub itself, so.
And cowling, you said, was
Cowling was squashed, the lower pieces of cowling,
totaled out.
yeah,
The engine itself?
was completely broken in two, where the front case had broken off.
Oh, so the engine was totaled out?
Yeah,
This means a new engine?
yes,
Oh, so this is a lot of work.
yeah.
I see. So that's why you would expect this to take at least a few months to get fixed?
Yeah, we had to, this goes back into ancient history. Bill Myers, I don't know if you've come across his name. He was the first electrical engineer. Was great for getting things off the surplus market. And he'd gotten a new engine for a helicopter, which was actually a better engine than the one that was on the T28. Internal parts were stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be converted to the engine that we needed for the T28. So Sandberg, the people in Minneapolis that built the engines for us, I took that helicopter engine back and they converted it, and we used that engine on the T28. So we had to take that to Minneapolis and then come back and wait for them, and then I went down and with all the parts and everything, and begged and borrowed enough equipment that I could take and change that engine down there.
So you expected, as soon as you saw the damage from this mishap,
Oh, yeah,
that would be the season?
Yeah, that
Everybody
was-
said, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Scrub for this year. There's
Yeah.
no way we'll get this fixed for this
No.
summer. Because it's not like pulling your Buick into a dealership and,
Take the engine out of a box, no.
no, okay. By the way, and I don't think this is a big point for the story or anything, but was that the end of, did Jon fly the T28 after that? Or was that it? Did he get fired?
No, he was the one that brought it back, I think.
I'm sorry, Brian.
I'm trying to remember if on his way back, if that was the time, he ended up in Texas somehow. That, I don't know if the compass was in upside down and backwards or just how that happened, that he ended up in Texas on his way back up here.
I'm sorry,
But
the plane got fixed in Oklahoma?
in Oklahoma.
Oh, you didn't put it on a truck and bring it back to Rapid City or anything like
no,
that?
I think he flew it back up here, as I remember. But he'd
A
gone
few months
to,
later or something?
yeah.
I see.
And he had family in Texas, so he just made a little detour down there. And who's gonna know? He had to call me. He had hit the emergency canopy open switch, and it works off a nitrogen system. And he couldn't get the canopy closed, so he had to call me to find out.
This is not technically an ejection system, but something like the ejection system.
Well, if you lose the engine,
Right,
the
you get in
hydraulic
trouble.
pump stops.
This is the emergency way of getting out of the plane.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you have to crawl out and...
Yeah. It's got a little nitrogen bottle.
And he accidentally popped it.
And so he had to call and ask how to get it to go in operation again.
But was he flying the next season, do you know?
No.
Okay. That was his last year, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was kind of funny. He had to call and say, well, how do you do this? And I thought, well, I ought to go down there. I ought to get a ticket and fly down and walk over to the airplane. It just had a little valve you had to squeeze.
Yeah.
And it relieved the nitrogen pressure in the hydraulic system.
To get the
And
canopy
go down there
back.
and hop on an airplane and come back.
Just squeeze a little bubble.
So, no, that was when he brought it back up. Then let's see who flew after him. Norm Vine.
Norm Vine, there's the name of it.
Norm Vine.
Is Norm still living?
Oh yeah, he's a rancher up in Montana.
Oh, yeah.
Wolf Point.
There's talk of me driving out there to talk to Norm.
Yeah, he's he and his brother, I think, have the family ranch now. One does wheat, I think, or did, and one did cattle. I think he did the cattle, and his brother did wheat up there.
Was he a military guy?
He was Air Force colonel. Yeah,
All these guys learned how to fly in the... That's how you learn how
in
to
the
fly.
Air Force. Yeah.
He flew for a few seasons.
Yeah, 4 or 5 maybe, I guess.
That seems to be how it went, that they seem to have,
Yeah, they get so old.
they just get tired of it, huh?
Well, no, age-wise.
Oh, they get old.
Yeah,
Because Wayne did 4 or 5 years.
yeah. He went back to school. And,
Well, that's true, that's true. He got his PhD. Because that's right, because there was no PhD program in school
Yeah.
mines, and he knew he wanted the doctorate. And Joe and John and Norm, everyone. But you stayed year after year.
Oh yeah.
Mechanics don't get too old, eh?
Well, they do after a while.
They do.
Pretty soon, when it's time to retire, you know it.
How old were you when you retired?
Oh, 10 years ago, 62, I guess.
So you retired. You didn't just retire from the T28.
I retired.
You retired. Good for you. So what was Norm like?
He was
What was it
just
like?
a good old cowboy.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, always wore cowboy boots and a hat.
Good pilot?
Yep, he was probably one of the best, along with Wayne. That never had a complaint about anything. Maybe, oh, by the way, and that would be it. And
Yeah.
it was,
Well, we'll just keep going with pilots. Who was after Norm?
let's see, Dan Custis. And he had a fixed base operation up in Spearfish,
Wait, what's a fixed base operation?
general aviation, private.
Why do they call it fixed base? What does that mean?
Oh, I guess because you can't go anyplace with it. You're fixed in one spot to service airplanes, and he had
I see.
they had
So
a complete air service.
He
up
worked
there.
at Spearfish.
Yeah, he owned
I see.
the business up there. And he was an Air Force pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And he was good too. He was another good pilot. They all were. Zoom was all right. He didn't have any problems other than that one time.
Mhm.
He'd kind of drive you crazy, but
Yeah.
other than that,
He was the character of the bunch?
Yeah, yeah.
And after Dan?
Then it was Charlie Summers.
Then it was Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie was around for a while, right?
Yeah, he was here
'Cause
quite a while.
He was there for your last, how many years?
Last 3, 4 maybe.
Yeah, and then he kept flying till 2000 or so, didn't
Yeah.
he? I have to talk to, is Charlie today or next week? Well, yeah, he's next week. Well, I have to talk to Charlie, but anyway, what was Charlie like? Charlie's kind of a character, isn't
Yeah, yeah. He was in a crash in the Air Force and I guess broke his back.
Mhm.
Was never expected to move again or something, I guess, but nothing wrong with him. He kind of have to nail one of his feet to the floor to keep him from flying around so much.
he? He's a spicy little guy. As he himself will tell you. He has more short jokes than... and then you retired. You just thought it was time to retire?
Yeah, you start thinking about it, and then pretty soon you start scheming. How can I do this? Well, I had to buy some Navy time to contribute to the state retirement system.
Mhm.
But
You sort of-
don't regret $1 a minute of it,
Of retirement.
right?
So retiring had nothing to do with the T28 or
No.
the program or anything like that?
No.
Just you personally, it was time for you to
Yep.
retire. Did you have anything to do with the T28 after that?
No, they had a picnic one time. They lost an engine, I guess, down in Nebraska, and it was the time once a year they have a picnic, and we went to that. And I was walking in, and I don't know, it was Jim Miller or who it was, said, "Do you want to go get the T28?" And I said, "Well, what happened to it?" He said, "Well, I lost an engine." I thought he was joking
Yeah.
and just yanking my chain, so I laughed. I didn't.
Oh, this is just the IAS picnic here in Rapid City.
Yeah. And I didn't really know that had happened. Then I felt kind of bad about it after that.
You felt bad about laughing.
Yeah.
But you didn't go get it.
No.
That's somebody else's problem.
Yeah. But no, that was kind of a surprise.
So Charlie took over as mechanic after you? There was not
Yeah,
another
I
mechanic?
don't know.
I can ask Charlie, but
Yeah, I don't know. I had, after I left the airport, I moved my junk. It took me, by the time I got done drinking coffee and everything, I spent a month out there after I'd retired, getting my junk out of there and get everything taken back up to the house and put away, and all the stuff you do when you retire, tools and stuff. I don't think I had been out to the airport, on the airport proper, other than the terminal, now 4 times since I retired.
you let it go.
Oh man, it was.
You don't tinker with somebody's
No.
Cessna out on the...
No. Airplane, what, gee whiz, what is that?
In these 24 years, were you working on any other planes?
No, I never did any moonlighting or anything. I just have the one job, and that was it.
What everybody notices about the T-28 is all the hail damage. Was that an issue for you?
The year we were up, where in the world? We had hail that was in the wingtips. It's just soft aluminum. There's no protection at all.
The very
way out,
tips.
way out on the end. There were dents the size, well, bigger than the top of a styrofoam coffee cup. So it had to be at least 3-inch hail, and that's excessive.
That
But-
was not regular.
No.
Those tips didn't get banged all
No,
the time.
well, from smaller hail, they
Yeah.
would, and about every couple, 2 or 3 years, 4 years or so, if it had been in quite a bit of hail, I'd have to take them off and then hammer the dents out of them. But no, there was just that really one time that had that large hail, and smaller hail would dent or bend the fins on the cylinders. That aluminum would happen to it? It would anneal and be soft again.
I'm sorry, it would what?
Become annealed, to become soft.
Oh, I see. Like if you bend a fork
Yeah.
65 times.
Yeah, and to anneal aluminum, you get it hot and then you cool it real fast.
Oh.
And where a ferrous metal will harden, that'll soften.
Oh, so
And-
aluminum doesn't get brittle if you do that, it gets soft.
No, yeah, it just gets
Oh.
soft again. So I had a little pair of pliers that you could go around and straighten the fins out. But other than that, it was well protected.
The fins protect the engine, or the fins disperse the heat, or what do they do?
Cooling, cylinder cooling, yeah.
But is there fluid
No,
flowing through
no,
those fins?
it's all air cooled.
It's just the heat passes through the aluminum,
Yeah, and
and this is the air on its way into the engine. No. that isn't-
it goes around the engine. The air for operation of the engine, there's a scoop on the top of the cowling
Oh, I see.
that it
So,
goes in and goes down.
so this kind of engine is cooled just by air
Just by
flowing
air flowing past.
into the cowling, right?
Yeah,
Inside the plane, flowing around the fins and the engine itself,
right.
and then venting out
Yeah,
somewhere.
there's cowl flap on either side, and you can kind of control the temperature.
By opening
Of the-
those flaps.
Yeah.
You'd have a temperature gauge and you keep it in the proper place
Yeah.
by controlling the amount of air that flows.
You had
Over
some
the-
control, normally you would have control of that, but in the conditions that airplane operated, you just closed them and hoped that it stayed warm enough, and you didn't have any problem with cooling.
Cooling
or
was not the
high
problem, keeping it
temperature,
warm
yeah.
was the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
What kind of speed would this plane fly at when they were doing these penetrations, roughly?
Gee, I think about 150, somewhere.
If you really
125.
wanted to cruise in this plane, how fast could you get it going?
About 125, 150.
Oh, that's it. They
No,
just-
it'll go about 250, I think.
Oh, it will?
As I remember.
If you wanted to fly down to Nebraska, you could make some good time.
Yeah, but you lose your time stopping for gas. For gas.
'Cause
It's a guzzler.
It really guzzles at those high speeds.
Yeah,
Um,
about a gallon a minute, I think it was.
Did they add the supercharger to this T28 when, I thought they made some modification. I thought, or maybe they proposed adding something to it that would suck up more gas. What kind of gas does this burn?
Avgas. It's
Just aviation gasoline?
Yeah.
It's not diesel or anything, it's
No,
just
no.
special gasoline?
it's a little higher octane rating than car gas.
I was,
The military had, 3 different grades, and 115, 145 is what it should use, which is 115 is a lean mixture, 145 is a rich mixture. And
was it during the rebuild at Pensacola that they added the supercharger?
no, they've always, it's
They always
always
had
had
a
a
supercharger.
two-speed, they always had
I'll
a
have to
two-speed.
look back at the documents, because I saw some memo about Wayne from somebody, Wayne or somebody saying, hey, we should add this, it would suck up more gas, but I think it would help us get more power, something like
I
that. Huh.
don't remember.
Maybe
what
they
that
never
would be.
did. How many of these fins were there, these fins that would get dented? These were radially all around, sort of
They were,
behind
they
the
were, they were
propeller.
on each cylinder. There was a ring on each cylinder, the base of there, the portion where the piston went up and down in the cylinder
Mhm.
was steel. And it was probably 3/16 of an inch thick.
Uh-huh.
And then around the outside of that, the aluminum fins were put on in pieces, and then they were crimped together. And there were probably, I'd guess, in that 5 or so inches, there were probably 40 layers.
Oh, I see,
30,
so each
40
cylinder
layers.
had many
Yeah.
of these fins?
Yeah.
And they were stacked, they weren't radial?
No,
Oh, I
they
think
were
I had-
stacked on each cylinder.
If I were standing in front of this airplane, or maybe up on the ladder, looking right at the propeller,
Mhm.
would I see these fins?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
They're right on the surface?
yeah.
I see, okay.
Yeah,
Because they want,
they're back around the cylinders. They make the cylinder probably 2 inches in diameter bigger because they're about 1 inch
okay.
long, and it fits around.
Oh, so these fins are only 1 inch long?
Yeah, and they're.
And that's what you had to
they're-
straighten out with
they're a ring,
pliers?
yeah, a ring that are stacked on the cylinder, and then they're crimped, and then they
They kind of clamp on there? Did you, if a fin got all smashed out and you couldn't straighten it anymore, did you replace the fins? Did you have to replace the whole cylinder?
the whole cylinder would be replaced. But they can replace those where the cylinder comes apart in 2 pieces.
Right.
The head of it is aluminum, and it is screwed onto on the cylinder itself. So when they overhaul them, if they can save the cylinder, if it isn't too worn out and the fins are bad, they can take the cylinder head off.
I see.
And take the whole set of fins off and put new fins on.
But that's not something you did out here
No,
at Rapid City.
no.
You would just replace the whole cylinder.
Yeah.
Because that's the way.
Yeah, there's a immense machine that they have for unscrewing those heads off of them.
It's not like opening a peanut butter jar.
No, no.
Airplanes are complicated, huh? Any other story come to mind? What's the strangest thing you ever had to do with the T28?
No, not really.
It was pretty routine.
Yeah,
Things generally went as planned.
yeah. Trips to Switzerland were interesting.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was going to ask you about Switzerland. Can you tell me about Switzerland?
It was originally going to go over on the Eisenhower. And seeing I spent
Is
4
that a
years.
carrier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spent 4 years and 4 months in the Navy and never had been on a ship. There was rumors that I could go on with the airplane. Well, I thought that might be all right going as a civilian. Then ended up it wasn't going to go. That was when I guess the Gulf War started or something and the ship left. And they did send it over on the back of a destroyer escort or something. I don't know quite what it was on. But they offloaded it in Rota, Spain. And we had to go down. I met Norm over in Switzerland. We went down, got the airplane.
You flew to Switzerland.
Yeah.
Met up with Norm.
Yeah. Then,
Traveled down to Spain to get the plane.
yep, it was kind of interesting. It was kind of a quick type thing. The people that were paying us in Switzerland were supposed to deposit some money in a bank. Well, it never got there. We had to go, ended up getting, I think, $1,500 to travel on out of a Swiss bank without having any money in an account. And they were rather generous. So we got down there, and then coming back, Norm had landed for gas and somehow ended up with a puncture in the nose tire, in the sidewall. Kind of like an ice pick or something.
Did somebody sabotage the plane?
Yeah. There's no way that could get a pinhole in the sidewall.
It was a little hole.
Yep. So they took it off and went into town and they patched it almost.
Same
They got it
as-
so held air enough for him to get up to Switzerland.
Huh.
And we found out what was wrong with it, and I had another tube. We packed up crates, probably about another 4 feet longer than that table and about the size of it.
Big crates.
Probably 3 by 3 by 6, 8 feet.
Full of parts.
All parts,
Anything you might need.
everything we
This
needed.
is quite an operation,
Yeah.
getting a plane to Switzerland.
Yeah, and we didn't have any idea that it had to go through customs or anything, or I didn't, so I didn't pay too much attention to it as we put it all in there. Well, Bruno Federer, the guy from ETH, which is kind of like NSF.
Oh, this is the European funding agency?
In Switzerland. He got it in as war materials. Got it through customs as war materials.
They didn't open up your crates and bust them open?
They just brought it all down to the hangar where
So
we were.
war
on the
materials, that's fine, but,
Yeah. On the military base, so that there was no problem with
because
it.
they don't mess with the military.
And so that was fine until we went to leave. We had everything all packed up and ready to go. Well, the year before we left, the second year, Bruno had died. And all his contacts to get this stuff out through customs again as war materials went poof like Pierre's mustache. And so eventually, I think the guy that worked for him, Rudy Ludi, was got it so it was arranged that it went through so we didn't have to open everything up so customs could go through it and see what it was. But that was kind of ironic. I thought that everything was so slick, and then you know, the worst thing that could happen did, that there wasn't any way to get it out because the fellow that had arranged it all had passed away.
Why would somebody at an airport puncture a tire on a T28 plane?
Get a little money for the fixed base operator, which there
Oh,
wasn't
I see.
there.
I see.
They couldn't repair it, so they had to go to a little repair shop in town and have it fixed.
So what was Switzerland like? How long were you there?
We were there two summers.
2 summers. The whole summer, or these are short trips?
These, gee, how long was it? Must have been 2 months or so at least. Time gets away from me.
Mm-hmm. Had you ever been to Europe?
No.
Did you get to travel around?
Yeah, and through the Masonic Lodge, I met a guy there that anytime I had off, we'd go over to his place or just travel around or whatever. And the landlady that we had would take me places during the day if we weren't doing anything.
Short trips around
Yeah.
Switzerland?
Yeah,
What town were you
in Lucerne.
in? But you didn't travel all around, besides going down to Spain, I guess, to get the plane. You didn't take side trips to London and...
No.
Germany.
I was happy there. I had more to do there than
Sure.
I had time for, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it went pretty fast, and it was a good place to be. And
That must have been the most fun field project.
yeah, and fortunately, that first year, we made arrangements, and the airplane couldn't go. We had a house rented, and nobody knows how we ended up being able to rent that house in the first place. No, we don't do that. At the agency we went to, we don't know who those people are. Where'd you get their name? Well, we thought it was through you. Anyway, it was the top floor of the house over in the Millionaires District.
But you never got to stay there.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
that-
nobody knew how we got in contact with these people. The people that were supposed to put us in touch with them said, no, we didn't do that.
So this was nicer than the Ranger Motel in
Oh,
Cheyenne.
yeah. Yeah, quite a bit different.
And that's where everybody stayed?
No, just I was there.
Oh, just you?
Yeah, but the first year, my wife and the 2 boys came over.
Oh, that's-
And they were there for a couple of weeks.
That's great.
So we had all this.
Now, usually on these field projects, you were not where the radar site was.
No, they
This is
were
what I
usually
don't
quite a ways
understand.
away.
I thought radars were at airports.
No, these were always usually out in the prairie somewhere,
Right.
when we were in Cheyenne.
But why, I don't get why you had usually these 2 locations.
Well, I think the radar was in a better location for it.
For the
The
storm.
airplane could always travel to be in the
I see.
position that the clouds would come through.
And this was this just a radar they set up for the summer?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So this was a
But
research
I
radar.
think most of them had been there for quite some time. And then in the latter years, it was weather radar that they were using from NSF and
Oh, I see.
that were kind of permanent things that they'd used for other projects.
But in
or
the
used for other
early years,
projects.
this was a scientific radar that they set up just for this.
Yeah, they used to have, I guess, out at the radar site out here by the interstate.
Mhm.
At the time, I guess it was one of the better.
And the
Radar.
radar site here, Rapid City, out kind of by the airport, that was not the airport's radar.
No,
That was just a scientific radar
Yeah.
for research.
yeah.
I see.
And
so,
we never really got to use it for any weather research projects with the T28. I think because people didn't want to come to South Dakota, didn't want to.
oh, I see. Nice place to come for the summer. Bring your kids out, see Mount Rushmore for 2 days. So you were around for 24 years. Did this program obviously sort of change over the years?
Yeah, it was.
If you compared your early years to the middle years to the later years,
If you look back at it, yeah, there was quite a
What
change
kind of
from
changes?
from the crude recording systems and everything in the beginning,
Uh-huh.
through the development of electronics, what it ended up being
Mhm.
is just, well, like everything else, like a little video camera.
Sure.
Big ones they used to have were, you had to have a mule to pack them around. Now you got little, that's even a big one compared to a lot of the ones. that
Yeah,
are there now.
I know. This feels old now.
Yeah. And there was a big change in the electronics equipment. The airplane stayed the same, it was just, and it was actually, in a way, with the new equipment, used so much less power that wasn't a concern anymore. Before, you used to really have to kind of watch what kind of equipment you put on and how much power it did use, because you're limited.
But did the budgets change? Did the whole, did the program get bigger, smaller, fancier, poorer? Did they have rough times, fat times? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know too much about the budgets and whatever. That was
Yeah.
far from.
But from your perspective, or was it
as far as the airplane went, that was first.
It was pretty level.
Yeah.
You were never worried about losing your job or anything like that?
Oh yeah. When I first started, they said, "Well, we can give you a job for a year.
I see.
We don't know about next year." Well, I did that for about 3 years, 4 years, and then each year I'd be a little concerned.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I found a job when I got this one, so don't worry about it. And
so your salary somewhere was dependent on grant money coming in, you think?
No, it was kind of always there.
I see.
I don't know what they gleaned it off of those years that.
But you just got your checks?
Yeah.
All right.
A couple years that we were here, didn't go on a project that was.
Anything else you want to tell me about the T28?
It was kind of sad to see it leave.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of nice to have it around.
Have you followed this whole saga at the end of its life and the museums and all that?
No, I've kind of.
I can ask others about that.
Yeah, kind of missed it. If you don't know what's happening to it, you kind of remember the good old days.
Did you feel that you were working on a special kind of airplane?
Or
as far as your job, was it pretty ordinary?
Well, the job was kind of ordinary, but what the airplane was used for was very different. But it was a good long career, I guess. And it's strange. You talk to people now. Well, I've worked for these people for so long. They've been working there 3 years, and they're looking for something else to do.
Right.
And they're on their way. And you say you worked someplace that long, 24 years, and they look at you like, well, what was your foot nailed to the floor? How come you didn't leave?
When you left, you must have been one of the old timers. You must have had.
Yeah, I saw
you're
a lot
around
of change in
as anybody.
personnel.
Yeah. Well, John, I want to thank you for talking to me today. I very much appreciate your time.
Well, you've been stirring up the memory here.
Okay.
It gets kind of stagnant every once in a while.
Well, thank you very much, John.
Oh, you're welcome.